So today we're going to start with the unit about westward expansion, particularly looking at manifest destiny, how we started to head west after the War of 1812, defeating the British, and with the Louisiana Purchase, completely expanded the American perspective of industrialization. With more and more land and more opportunity, Americans started to head westward. The biggest reason for this was because we had tremendous industrial economic growth and even economic growth and power. This brought us into some direct contact with the natives living there, which Andrew Jackson dealt with by removing many of the eastern native groups, particularly with the Indian Removal Act that led to what was called the Trail of Tears. This nationalism and this native resistance by guys like Tecumseh brought William Henry Harrison in the Battle of the Thames, as well as Tippecanoe, to a high level of national prominence, and eventually he earned himself the presidency. William Henry Harrison was one of the presidents who had one of the shortest terms ever after dying several weeks into his presidency. But the biggest thing was the age of Jackson. Andrew Jackson became a very popular leader in America after winning the Battle of New Orleans. He would eventually move on to tremendously change the perspective of what would be considered American nationalism, the defense against the idea of what is great for the nation versus states' rights. Some people viewed Jackson as a king or a wannabe king. It created a new two-party system with Whigs and Democrats. It became a presidential election of popularity and a great increase in political awareness. The Tariff of Abominations brought the first issue of this idea of secession of states, as Andrew Jackson used federal power, which caused some problems with some of the local states. Now, the other thing going on at this time is the big push in reform movements, backed under the ideas of transcendentalism, the idea of individuals having the rights of their own to create their futures. This is pushing even further away from those ideas that had come from the Enlightenment. Many of them were backed on religion and started to question what was right or wrong, like slavery. And this is at the time where we get an increase in the idea of abolitionism, using pamphlets and other types of news material to push against the end of slavery in the South. Further at this time, women became very much involved in political ideas, even though they didn't have the right to vote. And then after that, we also get a change because of the economic increases in a lot of what was called the market revolution in technology, with like Eli Whitney's cotton gin. Now, all this kind of comes together with this idea of manifest destiny, that it was our God-given right to head west. And unfortunately, this would bring us into direct contact again with the Spanish and eventually a war over Texas. You'll see here chapter 6 and 7 are what we're going to be focusing on in vocabulary, and we'll have a specific look at the idea of reform before we get into chapter 8. And that'll be all we'll cover here in the first trimester.